And we are live. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Nelson Vasquez from Central Florida. Uh, and we are in the Kills Health live stream at 3 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Today is the 24th of July, 2025. Thank you for being here. And let us know where you're watching from. Where in this globe or on this globe you are, okay? So today we have Tali Kentof with us. She, among many things, she is a doctor in functional medicine. I'm going to read you some information I have on her. Let me see where I put it.
I read that comment.
All right. So, it's right here. All right. Tali Kentof is a former pharmaceutical sales rep, and she's going to tell us, by the way, which drug she was pushing. Who spent years trapped in the cycle of conventional medicine, searching for answers of her own chronic health struggles. Extreme fatigue, brain fog, gut issues, and over 50 unexplained symptoms. After discovering that her breast implants were leaking toxic mold into her body, and after being dismissed by over 20 doctors, she nearly lost her life. But instead of giving up, Tali took matters into her own hands. She dove deep into holistic and functional medicine, earning multiple certifications and a doctorate in functional medicine. Today, she helps both men and women who are exhausted, aging too quickly, and frustrated by mainstream medicine to reclaim their energy, vitality, and youthful resilience through cellular testing, root cause solutions, and lifestyle shifts. A major part of Tali's personal healing came when she embraced the carnivore lifestyle, which took her recovery to the next level, reversing many menopause symptoms, rebuilding strength, restoring energy, and helping her feel vibrant and alive again. She's been fully carnivore for over a year now, but who's counting? Uh, it's a lifestyle, and is passionate about teaching others how to achieve lasting vitality by addressing health at the cellular level. So, welcome, Tali.
Thank you very
How are
much,
you
Dr.
doing?
Nelson.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Probably not as good as you being on a fast, but I did have eggs for
So
breakfast.
that's good. That's good. Very, very nutritious and complete meal by itself. Uh, where in this world are you talking to us from?
Yeah, I'm in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
All right.
So, hello, everybody.
So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Put a QQQ in front of it so I can see it. I'll try not to miss it. And I'm going to go ahead and give you the opportunity to go ahead and tell us your story
Yeah.
before and after carnivore and what you were doing before and these few things that I mentioned on the introduction here.
Mhm.
Okay. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, well, thank you. Thanks for giving me the floor here. In the early 2000s, I got breast implants, and I didn't really know fully what I was getting into. I did research, which you have to think the internet wasn't what the internet is now, as far as getting finding out information that's out there. And can you see me?
Yeah, hold on a second. That
Okay.
was me.
Oh, okay.
Um Just technical difficulties. There we go.
There we go.
Sorry.
I'm back. Yeah, so I got what I thought would be the safe kind of breast implants, which were saline, and I was told that's just going to be salt water. Later, of course, I found out that although salt water is the inside of breast implants, all breast implants have a silicone casing. I also learned that there are lots of risks that are involved with breast implants that were not gone over with me in the past. So when I got them, I really did not receive the informed consent that I should have. I started having symptoms pretty much right away, but they did progress, and it started with like a whisper where I never had acne. And then all of a sudden I had this adult onset cystic acne. I started to experience hair loss, joint pain, muscle aches, gut issues, and I had been very healthy. I was in my very early 30s at this time. And then just progressively over time, I noticed all of these symptoms. And that's when I started going doctor to doctor and asking questions like, what's wrong with me? Started in primary care. I ended up at a dermatologist. And then I went from specialist to specialist. And this went on for 15 years. Now, interestingly enough, during that time, I did become a pharmaceutical sales representative. So I was actually working in pharmaceutical sales, working in conventional medicine, calling on primary care physicians, cardiologists, and gastroenterologists. I had kind of a mixed bag. I did sell a statin, and then I sold a pill also known as the color that I'm wearing right now pill, which was a PPI. So it was for heartburn, and then some other cardiovascular pharmaceuticals. During that time, I really believed in conventional medicine. And that's why, as a patient in the system, I was looking for answers. But the things that I was hearing was, after 5 minutes, was, oh, take this antidepressant. It sounds like you're depressed. Or it was, this just sometimes happens to women. I was told that I was in early menopause, and I was in my early 40s at this time. And I was put on a variety of different, in addition to antidepressants, I was put on things like spironolactone to control any type of androgen activity, which was the hopes of reducing or stopping the hair loss. Because at that time, I was even wearing a wig in my 40s. It was probably the most tragic part of it. Was the hair loss. It was psychologically and emotionally so damaging, and not really knowing where is all of this coming from. And later, these symptoms ended up progressing to a point in about 2016 where I still didn't have answers. I was on 8 different pharmaceuticals. I had been to 20 specialists. No one could tell me what was wrong with me. And I just kind of had this voice that was screaming in my head. And it was after my first and last, by the way, mammogram. And after this mammogram, which of course squeezed these breast implants and squeezed what was inside of them out, that my whole left side of my body became nearly paralyzed. And I realized then it was like this voice that was screaming inside of me saying, it's your breast implants. It's coming from your breast implants. Now, things had gotten so bad prior to that moment of that knowing of that internal voice speaking to me that in 2014, I just remember laying on the couch, not having any energy, not even being able to breathe. Like breathing was difficult. And if I did happen to muster up enough energy to go out with friends or to have a celebration, it would be 3 or 4 days that I was absolutely down and had to build in recovery time into my life. And this is how I lived in my 30s and 40s. And in 2014, when I was 44, I actually had a conversation with my parents. And I was a single parent at the time. And I just felt like I didn't want my son to watch me dying. And I didn't want my parents to have to go through this as well. And I thought, I want to end things on an up note. They can't figure out what's wrong with me. Then maybe we should take a family vacation and go to Europe. I'd never been to Europe. And I was like, we can, stop at the end in Sweden and arrange for assisted suicide. Because that's how bad that it was. That's how horrible my quality of life was. But it was that moment in 2016 after that mammogram, about 2 weeks after that mammogram, that voice was screaming inside me saying, it's your breast implants. That the light kind of went off and I realized that's the root cause. And I went and saw a plastic surgeon I was living in Florida at the time. And I had emergency surgery several days later. And I had my breast implants removed. Now, what came out during that surgery was like something from a horror movie. And that was the big aha moment that kind of solved the mystery of what the issue was. I know I sent you the picture if you want to.
I'm going to bring it up right now.
Yeah. Just so that people can see and understand what came out of my body. Because it was just the most awful thing. And
alrighty.
Because when I went back to those 20 doctors that had told me it's all in my head and there's nothing wrong with me, I'm just getting older. Yep. I went back to the doctors, those 20 doctors, and paid the copay so I could go because I felt I had a moral obligation to let them know that this was the root cause. And it wasn't that I was crazy or needed antidepressants or that I was just getting older. This is what was causing the illness, the over 50 symptoms, joint pain, muscle aches, hair loss, complete exhaustion, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, thyroid issues, heart palpitations. So that if people are wondering what exactly are you looking, what is that? That's mold, fungus, and bacteria that was found inside the implants. That was a picture taken right after they were removed from my body, and they had been in there for years, just sitting over my heart, in my, at 98.6 degrees and leaking into my body, and my body was just at war during all that time. When I went back to those doctors, they said to me that wouldn't cause illness. All of them said to me that wouldn't cause illness. So that was a pivotal point in my life, and I'm very grateful and thankful for that moment, because that's when I realized that I needed to take charge of my health. And so I made a decision if I wanted to get better, because I had been exposed to all of these toxins, and I needed to get these toxins out of my body and then rebuild my body back to optimal health. And so that's when I decided that I was going to go back to school and start studying and start learning, and really also focus on that internal voice within me. Yeah, there's a picture of the top of my head in 2014 when I had lost my hair. And I was just told it's hormonal, and that it just sometimes happens to women. And I'm here to say there's always a root cause. And in my case, it was mold toxicity, bacteria, yeast, fungal infection. It was also just a ton of inflammation, oxidative stress that had damaged me on the mitochondrial level. And it wasn't until 2 years ago, which is like, it's been 8 years since I had these breast implants removed. But I've been on a roller coaster where I got better. And then once menopause hit, though, I got tanked again, because although I had addressed many, many things, it wasn't until I addressed the cellular health issues and addressed the issues deep in my cells at the mitochondrial level that things were able to turn around for me. And as a result, like at first, menopause, that was tough. And I had the hot flashes and the fatigue and the weight gain and the belly fat, and all those things had crept up. And I saw that I was just turning into an old lady before my eyes. But this time, instead of running to conventional medicine, I'm like, no, I've got this. And this was during the time when I was studying, when I was earning my holistic doctorate degree in functional wellness. And so I really focused on cellular health, and I figured out how to turn this around. And I have pictures to prove that if you even want to pull that up. But yeah, I was able to just get back on track, and I'm 55, and I'm proud to say I have 6-pack abs, and I feel fantastic. And also the carnivore lifestyle was instrumental in that as well.
So Larry Ryan is asking, how long were they in your body?
Good question. So a total of 15 years.
Yeah. And okay, I'm looking for the pictures.
Oh, yeah. Even 2 years ago, I feel like I was unrecognizable, at least to myself. And I felt like I just couldn't get a handle on things, that things were creeping back. And having spent so much of my life ill without any answers, I took charge of my health and was able to reverse it. Although the picture shows a 2-year difference in the pictures, I was able to transform my health quite rapidly within 3 to 6 months, just by addressing the root causes of what was happening to me. And I still, even then, had some fungal yeast and mold overgrowth that was evident in an organic acid test, which is the test that I use with clients. But when I tested myself, I found that I had a lot of those issues still at the cellular level, and was able to quickly address those. So yeah, there it is. You can see 2 years ago, and then today. Now I do work out. I don't just sit around, but I want people to know that in that picture 2 years ago, I was not carnivore. I was eating an organic omnivore diet. So I was eating, a lot of organic vegetables, a lot of chicken. I was scared. I was like, oh, I shouldn't eat red meat. And so I was only eating red meat maybe once a week. And it was grass fed, grass finished. But then you can see there, they told me I was gluten free. I did all the right things. I did what everyone says. Oh, gosh,
all the healthy things that
right.
people
All the
talk
secret
about.
that Sally Norton warns about. I was eating all those. You can see, yeah, look at that in my face, at all the inflammation. But it was when I went carnivore that I really did have a shift. So it was kind of a mix of things. So the carnivore lifestyle definitely helped. You can see the inflammation is gone. And I get a lot of questions like, how much weight did you lose there from the previous picture to today? That looks like, a lot of people say it looks like 20, 25 pounds. But in truth, I only lost 5 pounds.
Okay.
So it's not about weight. It's about
there was a lot of inflammation there, basically.
Exactly. Yep. So, and there's me. There's me today. So yeah, my life also today is very different. I feel like I am making up for time that was lost due to breast implant illness. There are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of women that have breast implant illness now and haven't yet been able to connect the dots. They're being told by their conventional doctor, it's all in your head. You're just getting older. It's a hormone issue. You need to take this pill, this pill, this pill. But it is still, even 8 years after my story, it's still an issue that's out there that doctors need to be educated, and people need to be educated on the risks of breast implants. There are no safe breast implants. To me, what I really believe is that it's not a matter of if you get sick, it's a matter of when you get sick. I've already met with several women who have breast implants. A couple of them have gone forward and taken the organic acid test. And this test really looks at your cellular health. It has 76 biomarkers that are looking, it's a urine test. So it's looking at organic acids that kind of spill into your urine. And that tells a lot about your gut health, about your mitochondria, oxidative stress, your neurotransmitters, so nutrient deficiencies. It tells a lot. And the women that I've seen who have breast implants, their organic acid test is scary. It is scary looking. Now, of course, I can't say that there's a direct correlation there, but I can just make a very wise assumption that the toxins that are in breast implants, as well as just the crazy load or burden on the immune system to fight these foreign objects that are in the body, are causing these health issues or could possibly be related. What women have found when they remove their breast implants is over 90% of women feel better. Now, it does require detoxifying the body after having breast implants because they've been exposed to so many chemicals. There's over 40 toxic chemicals in breast implants. And these devices are not safe, and they were grandfathered in. And women are dying from them. They are getting sick, and there are many who are dying from them. So
yeah. Question, and this can be a sensitive subject for women who are considering breast implants, and there are probably a few reasons, but very often reasons will include self-image, among other things, and women will consider taking a step like this. I'm trying to not step on any toes here, sensitivity, but for people listening. But what would you tell young Tali before she went ahead and did this? And it's also difficult to, if you even today you find someone to talk to about, well, you're considering this, all of a sudden given this person all this information might be overwhelming. So what will be the short advice that you would try to tell yourself if you were going to be able to talk to you before the implants?
I was a completely different person in my early 30s. So I don't know if I would have listened to Wise Tali, the more seasoned version who has gone through this. So for me, I needed to go through this to get to this point. However, our self-esteem should not be built on fake additives and parts that we put into our body. Our self-esteem needs to come from within us, and it starts with our mindset. Had I known then what I know now, I never would have gone on this path, but who knows who I would be at this point had I not gone on this path. So I'm grateful for the experience because it sure wisened me up. But any woman who is considering breast implants really needs to do due diligence. There are tons and tons of Facebook groups that are very welcoming. You can type in breast implant illness support groups on Facebook, and you will find thousands and thousands of women just like me sharing their story. They're all sick, and they're all sharing their story. If only I had known. So I think any woman who's considering getting breast implants should walk that path and just look in those groups and listen to other women's stories before doing that. And then the other thing to consider is, if you're thinking that these breast implants are going to make you happy, they won't. So happiness is an inside job. And so I have a little sign back here. It says choose happy. So we all have within our power the choice every day to choose happy. Self-esteem is not linked to dangerous, toxic body parts. And not only that, but I will tell you honestly that when I had these breast implants, I was treated completely differently by both women and men. Women judged me, hated me the moment that they saw me. They didn't even give me a chance. It was because my breasts entered the room before I did. And so I was immediately judged. I was judged at job interviews. I was judged in social circles. And then by men, I seemed to attract all the wrong men to me during that time. Men who were only interested in the size of my breasts. And then they were extremely sorely disappointed when they found out that those big breasts also came with a big brain, because that's not what they were looking for. And so I have found that as I become my authentic self, the further I tell the truth, the further that I live the truth, like my truth, that is who I am, the closer that I align with authenticity, the greater that life gets for me. And, that's kind of if you've studied quantum physics, kind of out there for some people, but if you've studied frequency and quantum physics, authenticity has the highest vibration of anything. So if you can align yourself with your authenticity, with who you truly are, not masked behind Botox and filters and breast implants and butt implants and all the things that we do to mask who we are. If you can just be who you are and be proud of who you are, you will live a much better life and a healthier life and a happier life. And so, that's what I have to say.
One of our most primal instincts, if not the biggest, is procreation, right? So we live our lives, especially when we're young and we come to an age, we do things to attract the other sex and to look good. And it's nothing wrong with looking good, I think, right? But it's a natural instinct to do the most that you can. But you touch in a very important subject, because I think the strongest attraction sometimes within two people, before, we can talk about chemical hormones, and we can talk about pheromones and all that. But once you get to know someone, the brain is very important. And you mentioned that men and women get attracted to the brain as well. Part of the personality, part of who you are, how you behave. And sometimes we misplace the attention that we give to each other, and the attention that you are trying to portray also when you change parts of your body. And we all do the same, by the way. Men may not do it more often with implants, but might be the main reason you go to the gym and try to look fit and all these things. So you've had more than one life.
Yes. I've had
Seasons
many
in
lifetimes in this lifetime. I say that all the time. So funny that you
many
should mention that.
seasons. And so I want to talk a little bit about the drugs you were pushing. And I'm just kidding, but
Yeah.
you were basically a drug pusher. You were a medical sales representative. You promoted many medications for your companies. You visited doctors
Mhm.
to try to convince them to use your product. Tell us about that. And
Yeah.
before we get into the nitty gritty with maybe the statins, but tell us about the medical sales and going to the doctors, trying to convince them to get to prescribe your drugs.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I did get my in pharmaceutical sales from the gym. I just happened to meet somebody there who was in pharmaceutical sales, and that was my in. I fit the part, I guess. So at the time, I was in my 30s and I had been a teacher. So I have a master's in education and I was a middle school teacher at the time. And life was hard as a single parent on a teacher's income. And having somebody walk over to me at the gym and then mention to me, you'll never think about or worry about money again was very enticing. And at that time, pharmaceutical sales was just this very sparkly, very glittery type of a job that everybody wanted. And they were looking for people who, this is from my perspective, that they were looking for people who had a clean slate. In other words, I didn't have a science background. I didn't know what questions to ask. So if they told me something or we're teaching you this about this drug, then I didn't have the knowledge base in my background to answer to ask the right questions. Does that make sense? Like
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't know
yeah.
what to ask.
You didn't know what you didn't know.
Right, exactly. Right.
So
And
if
but I looked the part and I was educated and I was good at delivering information. So I was a good speaker. And so I think I fit the part of what they were looking for. It was such a shift for me going from teaching to pharmaceutical sales. And at first I had to learn, everything about the sales process, which is what they teach you. So they teach you how to sell. They teach you how to position the drug that you're selling against the competition. And they give you the detail pieces and then also the studies that they have conducted. So they are studies that the pharmaceutical companies paid for in order to provide them with the FDA approval and the so-called data to be able to go out there and to market this drug. So I would have anywhere between 10 seconds to in front of a physician to sometimes a lunch. I may have, a half hour. And so the day to day was kind of different. I had a quota of having to see 8 to 10 doctors a day. And it was catching them in the hallway and giving them, trying to catch them off guard with a question like, doctor, what do you do when your patients have high cholesterol and they're diabetic? And you catch them off guard with an open-ended question where they're going to talk to you about a specific patient. Things that I didn't know was that there is a difference between relative risk reduction and absolute risk reduction when you are looking at clinical studies, right? So what looks good on paper is a relative risk reduction. But what is the truth is the absolute risk reduction. And even better, it's ask the question of what's the number needed to treat? So if you have 100 patients that you are, that's the number needed to treat 100 patients, and you are stopping one heart attack that is, not a non-fatal heart attack, is that drug worth the risks involved, such as myalgia, which is that chronic muscle aches, or is it worth an increase in diabetes or an increase in the C word, which I know better than to say the rest of that word. But we really need to look at the real life meaning, and people need to understand that these studies are skewed and that in the natural health world, there are ways to address root cause issues. And we now know of the link between metabolic health, for example, and cardiovascular health. So Dr. Ovadia, I think, does a really good job of explaining that. We also know how important that cholesterol is to the body at the cellular level, for your brain, for your hormones. Like, why are all men now low in testosterone? Is it possible that we have a statin nation, and because we're lowering cholesterol to these extreme levels, we now have men who have low testosterone. We have all this hormone dysfunction, we have cellular dysfunction, we have diabetes, we have a high, the highest ever, these turbo C's as well, which is related to other things which I also can't talk about.
I
Statins
have a
also
question.
lower CoQ10. Yeah,
Have a
I'll go
question
on forever
regarding.
if you don't stop me.
It's okay, and I want you to. So it makes it easier for me. But I have a question because you mentioned this right now, and I had an interesting conversation with a drug rep. He came in promoting one of those stronger medications that when statins fail, you're supposed to go to, right?
Oh my
So,
goodness.
and it may have been because you represented a company for a while with those, and you also
Mm,
had sold one of the statins. So I'm
yes.
trying to stay away without mentioning
Right.
the
Yes.
particular
Thank
names,
you.
but
Right.
but he had he had sold the same one you did, the same statin before, and now he was a rep for this super duper stronger one. And I said, okay, well, uh, he's quoting me. He's quoting me some statistics, and this is the key. You can confirm or deny this. This is where the pharmaceutical companies lie to you without lying because they're quoting actual statistics. It's just not maybe the correct statistic you should be listening to, but the relative risk statistic is a real statistic they made up to manipulate the data, but it is a real statistic. So I cannot really call them a liar because it's a real statistic. But I said,
Correct.
well, wait a second. So let me give you some numbers. So this particular drug in the studies, the difference between the people in the group taking the medication or injection, because it was an injection, and the group taking a placebo was 13% incidence of cardiovascular disease, but in the medication group, it was 12%. So the reduction was statistically significant per 100, but the difference really, the absolute risk reduction was 1%. And this was on people already on a statin, right?
Right.
I'm taking these numbers right out of the package
Hmm.
insert because I've looked at these numbers.
Hmm.
Now, the absolute risk reduction 1% on someone who was already taking a medication who also has an absolute risk reduction of 1%, 1.1 to be exact, because this other statin, the numbers are 1.9 and 3% cardiovascular events
Hmm.
on the placebo group and 1.9% in the medication group. And you come up with a relative risk reduction of 36%, which was what,
Right.
when you were doing that, that was the number you would tell the doctor, right? We reduce heart attacks by 36%. And then in the small letters, it's a relative risk reduction. The absolute
Correct.
risk reduction of those medications is really just 1 to 1.5%, depending on the statin you
Yes.
look at.
That's the number
And the
needed to treat is
And the
is
number,
really
it's
the
100 to 130 is the number for most statins. And the absolute risk increase in diabetes is
right.
larger than the
Yes.
absolute risk reduction.
And
So,
I know what study. I know that the study that you are even talking about, which I won't mention the name, but in this particular study, there were people. There were about 18,000 people in the study, and they had normal to low, like normal LDL levels, but high HSCRP, which is a inflammatory marker. And in that, they blew up when they talked about the risk reduction. So the relative risk in that, I believe, was like 43%. But then when you look at like the number needed to treat, like how many patients would you need to treat before you're actually stopping a heart attack? It was 170 people that you would need to treat for 2 years, and you would be preventing one non-fatal heart attack. But also, along that way, you would have 1 in 10 people experiencing myalgia. You would have 1 in 100 developing diabetes, and most would also be depleted of coenzyme Q10. Now, why is that important? Well, coenzyme Q10 is a very, very important antioxidant for your system. Your body makes it. It is important for mitochondrial function. It's important for your heart and your brain. So listen to that. It's depleting because it's blocking the pathway that actually creates coenzyme Q10 in your body. And so we're blocking that by taking it, and now that's affecting your heart. And yet conventional doctors today, most of them do not say, hey, if you're going to be taking a statin, you really do need to take high dose CoQ10 at the same time. And so people are ending up with heart issues because they're also depleted of CoQ10 on top of many, many other issues. So there already has been an FDA warning that has been added to statins for dementia. So I'm trying to look. I did put a note down on here, but FDA, it was added in 2012. So, yeah.
Kimberly,
the type 2 diabetes people can research that as far as the increase of type 2 diabetes risk of 46%, especially in women. And that was in an article in JAMA in 2015.
Yep, definitely. And even if you have already diabetes, it's gonna worsen basically your metabolic health.
Just
Kimberly
change your
made a
diet.
comment.
Change your
Made a comment that says the injection destroyed my client's health. And so let's talk a little bit about the indication of those medications. Those medications are, and there's only a couple in the market, right? 2 or 3 of
many
the
have gone generic.
PCSK9 inhibitors. No, not the statins, the PSK
Okay.
9. They're indicated to be added to the statins when the statin doesn't get you to the LDL they're looking for. Okay, that's the goal.
But what's the LDL they're looking for? They keep dropping the goalpost every day.
But that's the indication. This is what I have found. I had a patient. This is an example. This is what this patient told me. I said, "Oh, you're taking this med? Oh no, I'm not taking that anymore. I'm taking now this other one, the injection." Okay, why was that? Your numbers look good. Well, my cardiologist called me out of the blue. This wasn't even a patient I went to a visit. My cardiologist called me out of the blue and said, I'm going to put you on this other medication because it's better, and go ahead and stop the statin. Well, as a drug rep, you know that you cannot make claims that are not based on what the study found. In other words, your advice to the doctor cannot be stop the statin at this, because the only indication the medications have is adding these new medications to the statin. Once you do, especially a switch, you're going out basically off label, right? But I always wonder, why is this doctor calling patients to switch them when they didn't even need it based on the guidelines and the indication? It made me suspicious. It made me, most people who are in this community are skeptics by nature?
Well, because 2 weeks into carnivore, most people feel better. And then it's like, wait a second, what just happened? Because I know even I had 20 years of gut issues that went away in 2 weeks. And then it's like, okay, let me dig deeper. And I went really, I did a big, deep dive into cholesterol when I started carnivore. And of course, I read The Great Cholesterol Myth. And all the information, if somebody's new to or wants to learn the truth about cholesterol, that's a great book to read, The Great Cholesterol Myth. I have it behind me on the shelf. But when you start really digging into the truth or the real studies, then you find out that, in a recent meta-analysis, for example, those who had the highest LDL levels lived the longest. And then when we look at, is there really bad cholesterol? If we call one bad, but then we call one good. And yet we realize how important LDL is to repair, to, our repair mechanism and systems. And then we're looking too at the relationship between your metabolic health and your cardiovascular health. And so these two are connected. So if you have issues with insulin resistance, then that is going to affect your cardiovascular health more than anything. And so you want to look at the ratio between your triglycerides to HDL. That would be a better indicator than trying to lower your LDL cholesterol. So trying to aim for a goal of triglycerides being like a 2-to-1 ratio or less is actually indicating that your metabolic health is good, because triglycerides are linked to diet. They're linked to the amount of sugars and carbohydrates and the things that are actually driving that insulin in your body. So there's no need for a pill. Just change your diet, change your lifestyle, get out in the sunlight. That's also important. So your vitamin D levels are crucial to your overall health and your cardiovascular health. Get out and sit out in the sun, first morning sunlight. You'd be surprised at what that can do for your health.
And a precursor of vitamin D is, by the way, cholesterol.
Yes.
And this is a quote I've used a lot. And of course, what we just mentioned was an example. There are 3 kinds of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. The quote has been attributed to Mark Twain. It also has been attributed to other people. So I'm not sure it was him who originally said it. But yes, it's been attributed to Mark Twain. And it's an interesting quote, because I think there's a lot of truth in there. This is something that happens with salespeople a lot in all fields, not only in drugs. You're trained to point out the good and don't even mention the bad. On this particular conversation I was telling you about, I asked the guy, well, what is the absolute risk reduction on this medication? And he said, oh, I can't tell you that. I said, well, what do you mean you can't tell me that? Oh, the company only allows me to quote you the relative risk reduction. They don't let me tell you the absolute risk reduction. You can read it. It's here in the pamphlet, the package insert. Do you know? Do you have a real feel for what the number of doctors that really get down to read all the details in the package insert? It's probably not that
Doctors don't have time, as you know, they don't have time to do their own research, and they frequently rely on these pharmaceutical reps to show them the data in order to make a decision of which drug to use. We were trained on handling objections and any skepticism around safety. And so we had in our, in our portfolio of detail sheets is what it's called, where this is what it's this fancy, glossy, beautiful sales sheet where you do this when you're showing something to a doctor. But if they said, for example, oh, I noticed that, creatinine clearance. There's an issue there with the kidneys. So we had a sheet to stop that objection. And it was, showing in a specific trial or a specific study, this is the one little window where it's showing this, and does that answer your question? And then there was also backup. So we had backup that, let's say that objection wasn't handled appropriately, or that doctor still had skepticism. We had somebody in the company, like a Pharm D, who would answer questions on a higher level that the doctor had. But the main goal was just to get that doctor to start writing the drug. And then based on the prescriptions that were coming in, as far as the increase in market share, that's what drove my commissions. So, it's just interesting that this happens and that it is connected to health, because on the patient side, we don't see this underbelly of our healthcare system to truly understand how corrupt that it is. And we take good faith in our healthcare system that, first, do no harm, and that it is all about our care. And yet what has happened to our healthcare system is that it has been overdriven by big pharma and also big insurance. And what happens is that a person goes in with serious health symptoms, and the conventional labs are only able to pick up when you are already in your disease state. They're kind of already, they're created in a fashion that they're going to pick up only when you are really sick, and only when you have a sick that they can use their 3 tools on that, because they only have 3 tools. So those tools are pharmaceuticals, surgery, and radiation. But there are no other tools that are offered. And so that's why it's just really important to be an educated consumer all the way around when it comes to your health.
And
you need to be in the know.
One of the things I tell my patients, you probably have an extra tab open or something. One of the things I tell my patients is read the package insert. I read it. I tell them to read it. If I'm suggesting a medication, because all medications have possible side effects, and some are worse than others, but all of them have them, unfortunately. And this is circling back to the beginning. Is there, you probably have looked to see, is there any breast implant, for example, that you would consider safe?
There are no safe breast implants. Even just by its design, when we think about putting a foreign object like this into the body, I mean, let all you critical thinkers out there, think about putting this foreign object in your body. There's going to be a large amount of people who are going to have problems with that.
Yeah.
Because we have this beautiful immune system that helps protect us. And here's a fun fact about breast implants, or anything that you put in your body. Your body knows that it shouldn't be there, and it will work very hard to protect you from it. And that's why a scar capsule develops around breast implants. And this scar capsule sometimes becomes very hard, almost like this big shell, like a turtle shell. And that's like that calcification that's trying to block the toxins and the poisons from going out to the rest of your body. So it's literally a protective mechanism. And this scar capsule needs to be properly removed at the time of explant. Now, did the reps and the salespeople and the big companies, the big device companies, did they teach plastic surgeons how to put these breast implants in? Yes. Did they teach them how to remove them properly in what's called an en bloc procedure, where they literally remove it intact? They remove the whole scar capsule and the breast implant intact. Did they teach the plastic surgeons to do this properly? No. So back in 2016, there were only a handful of plastic surgeons who were skilled in en bloc explant procedure. And so when I had my breast implants removed, they were not removed properly. In other words, the scar capsule was left behind. And so I do all the things. I'm carnivore. I do so many things in my life, biohacks, the way I eat, the way I live my life. It's to stay on top of the inflammation. And I've done a phenomenal job and I have healed tremendously. But I have another surgery that I'm facing in a couple months. And that will be a total capsulectomy, where they're going to go in there and they're going to finally remove this scar capsule that was left behind, so that I can get on with my life and achieve optimal health and put this part of this nightmare situation that has gone on for many years for me. I want to put it in the past for good and move on with my life. And I will be sharing the story of this surgery with others, because I want people to know how damaging this can be if you put these in your body, and that it's not so easy also to remove it. By the way, insurance will not pay to remove this. So you're talking about expenses, and these are not lifetime devices. In the package insert, they do need to be removed every 8 to 10 years and replaced. And that scar capsule needs to be removed completely. And when those implants, if you choose to replace it, but there are other options out there that are a lot safer, like getting a lift if you need to, or just love yourself and love your body and go to the gym and do some chest presses and, work on your metabolic health by strength training, and eat right and live happy and love yourself as God made you.
Thank you, Callie, for being here. And we're coming up to the top of the hour. I just wanted to make a comment, and please remember that this was another era. But I I graduated from medical school in 1984. Was in private practice by 88 with my own practice, and I was still not 30. Okay, I was in my 20s. So I'm talking the 1980s, when drug reps at the time were allowed to give larger gifts to doctors. I was never, by the way, some people think we're paid directly. Here's in your pocket this amount of money for doing, writing our prescriptions. And if there was a doctor doing that, I never got an offer for that. But I did get tickets for sports events to go and watch whales, and you know other things like that that are no longer allowed. But uh, the way we received the drug trips into our office, and they were friendly, 100% of them, they were trying to be the nicest they could. Maybe they were not really nice people in their lives, but they were the nicest they could with the staff, and they would bring things for the staff, because the staff is the key to going to the doctor, right? So, but that was another era. Thankfully, a lot of practices don't even allow the drug reps to come in there anymore.
True, and there are now different laws,
Yes,
anti-kickback laws, so you can't even give out
definitely.
pens anymore. And I'm
Yeah.
thankful I'm not in it, and I'm on the other side and working in functional wellness and helping people through diet, lifestyle, and all the things that are out there. So many more tools on this side of the fence.
Anyways, where can we find you if someone wants to get a hold of you? You're in private practice. How does
Yep, I have a
someone get a
virtual
hold of
practice.
you?
Yeah, I have a virtual practice, so I help people nearly everywhere. And currently, I am offering a complimentary consultation, so there's nothing to lose. They can find me at learnu, as in the letter U, .live, because when you learn you live a lot better. Learnu.live. And then on my social media, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, on YouTube. It's Learn You, the letter U, live better. Learn You, live better.
All right. So I put all those social uh, media links in the description on my YouTube. I'm sorry, they're not on the main channel's YouTube, main channel's description. But if you go to uh, at the real Dr. Nelson, in the description, there are all of those links. But the main one is your website, which is learnu.live.
Yes,
Correct?
Learn You, like
Uh,
the letter U, .live. Yes.
all right.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go ahead and put that here. Live or live? Live.
Well, I like we could call it anything we want to call it. It's spelled the same, but I like to think live.
Okay.
Let's all live
But
a better life outside of the sick care system.
yes, live you does
Learn
what?
You,
Learn
live.
you.
Learn You. Yes, Learn
Learn
You,
you.
like the letter U. Because it's a university where you're learning how to take care of you, to stay out of a sick care system that has three tools
All
that
right.
aren't that great. There it is. Learnu.live. Yes.
That's correct. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's the main place where you can find her. She does complimentary initial evaluations, and then
Yep.
uh, on the website you have information as
I
well.
do
Additional.
focus on
Okay.
cellular health, beginning with cellular testing, but identifying root cause issues and working on rebalancing that naturally through the proper diet and lifestyle changes.
All
Yeah.
righty. Well, thank you very much for being with
Thank
us.
you, Dr.
Thank
Nelson.
you. Thank you,
It's been
everyone that
fun.
was here. Thank you, everyone that was here today. Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., the usual time of Dr. Kilt's live. I will not be there because I'm traveling to Montello. And I'll see you personally. I'll see you on Monday. I'll be still in Montello, but I will be the 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.